right. Hello, everyone. So before we get started, Third Place Books would like to acknowledge that we are on the unceded ancestral land of the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish people, past and present, and honor with gratitude the Duwamish people and the land itself. So welcome, everyone, to our virtual event space. My name is Allie. You might recognize me from our Lake Forest Park location. And I'm your host for the evening. I am so excited to be introducing Brian Zepka and Shaun David Hutchinson. But before we get into the good stuff, on behalf of all of us here at Third Place Books, I just want to quickly thank you all so much for tuning in. For those of you who may not know, we are an independent bookstore with 3 locations in the Seattle area. And as much as we miss having these events in our bookstores, it has been such a delight to expand this online program to connect readers and authors in a virtual space. So thank you all so much for tuning in and buying books. Your support is what makes all of this possible. If you haven't gotten your hands on copies of any of the books that come up this evening and you would like to, I will be linking books in chat. For those of you in the Seattle area, come on in, grab a copy off the shelf, or you can place an order online and come pick it up in the store. Or if you're not local or not leaving the house, we of course ship. So go ahead and follow those links in chat over to our website. While you're on our website, I definitely encourage you to check out some of our other upcoming events. We have an exciting roster coming up in the new year, including some events in person, which is very exciting. If you'd like to stay in touch with our community, you can sign up for our newsletter. It's a weekly update about events and exciting releases, our online book clubs, and of course, you can follow us on any of the major social media platforms. We are at Third Place Books for the quickest updates and recommendations. So tonight we are here for about an hour, and towards the end we will be taking questions. So if you have any questions, which we very much hope that you do, go ahead and leave those in the Q&A box. It should be either at the top or bottom of your screen. It is different than the chat box, which is great for virtual applause and connecting with each other. I absolutely invite you to share where you're tuning in from in the chat. But when it comes time for questions, do make sure those end up in the Q&A so we can most easily find them. While you're in our chat and question spaces, I want to remind you to please lead with kindness and refrain from any inappropriate behavior or harassment. And finally, should any technical issues arise, we will work as quickly as we can to resolve them. And we so appreciate your patience and understanding. All right. So it is the time to settle in, get cozy, pull up your tea, because without further ado, I am so pleased to welcome Brian Zepka, whose debut novel, The Temperature of Me and You, came out on Tuesday. So I'm hope you'll join me in wishing him a happy book birthday. The Temperature of Me and You has appeared on most anticipated and best of lists all over the place, including Biblio Lifestyle, Epic Reads, the Nerd Daily, She Reads, and 17 Magazine, and Lambda Literary called it a shimmering LGBTQ YA novel to illuminate winter nights. In conversation this evening, I'm so thrilled to welcome back Shaun David Hutchinson, baker extraordinaire and the author of numerous books for young adults, including We Are the Ants, complicated love story set in space, the YA memoir Brave Face, and most recently, the wonderful Before We Disappear, which was billed as The Prestige meets What If It's Us. So thank you both so much for joining us this evening. I'm going to go ahead and pass the stage to you.
Hello. Well, thank you for having us. Brian, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Brian Zepka. I use the he, him pronouns, and I'm the author of The Temperature of Me and You.
And I'm Shaun David Hutchinson, and my pronouns are also he, him, and I have a lot of books out. I'm not going to name them. Anyway, it's really great to get to talk to you and get to meet you. And first, congratulations on your debut.
Thank you.
This is such a great book. And, I just, anytime a new LGBTQ book comes out into the world, I feel like glitter should rain down from the sky, and all of us who lived in a world without these kinds of books just get to cheer and just be super happy. And this cover is just it is the most beautiful cover. I love it. So congratulations on that. And so I kind of want to jump right in. And actually, it's really the first question we got was the first question I really wanted to talk to you about is, first, why don't you tell us a little bit about The Temperature of Me and You?
Yeah. So The Temperature of Me and You follows Dylan Highmark, who is this just ordinary 16-year-old boy who's kind of like stuck in a rut at the beginning of the story. He's just kind of like safe in his comfort zone, working at Dairy Queen. He has very few friends, but it's like his close-knit group, and he's kind of like comfortable in that position. But then at the same time, he also is realizing that he's missing out on a lot of things in his life that like his friends and his sister and other people at school are experiencing. So he kind of like doesn't know how to handle that dynamic to like experience new things because he's afraid. And then he meets Jordan, who is the opposite of Dylan. He's a bit like extraordinary, and he has a body temperature of 110 degrees. And then they start hanging out, and there's like this mystery around like why he's like that. And then Dylan kind of like starts coming down with a similar fever, and he gets like these similar powers that come along with the body temperature of like shooting flames. And Dylan's like a little bit different, which is also something that he has to handle. And then, and then they kind of have to like figure out why they're like this, and then who's after Jordan, keep each other safe, and then kind of like see if their kind of like love and attraction can outlast the like science fiction test. So
and I love this. Like I love the relationship between them because I just think it's so sweet. But I also love, like, I love stories like this, especially with, you know, them with you know, the powers and having to navigate that at the same time as navigating their relationship, because in a lot of LGBTQ books, like navigating the relationship would be like the central problem. It would be like the thing that you have to explain.
Yeah.
You know, you just didn't get to see that very often. And so now we get superpowers, which makes me really happy because I love books about superpowers. And
then there's so much like there's like the relationship, and then there's the superpowers. But then I really wanted to be, there are like a lot of just like other ordinary high school things that they have to deal with as well. So it's like dealing with their ordinary high school lives with these like superpowers going on in the background.
Oh yeah, because you've got Savannah, who is a lot.
Yeah, she has a lot.
Family issues, which I love Dylan's family. You know, it's just it felt very real. Like it felt very real while also having, you know, superpowers. And I kind of love that. And Dylan and Jordan's meet cute was one of my favorite ever. So I'm kind of curious, like, what inspired, like, where did this story come from for you?
Yeah, so I knew I wanted to write kind of like a gay YA, like cute, fun romance with some sort of like magical element to it. And that's kind of like what I was thinking about first in terms of like writing my next story. But then I didn't really have the total idea for it yet. And then how Jordan kind of like gets his powers in the story, that idea came to me kind of like when I was like driving on a commute one day. Something happened where it inspired the event. I don't want to say and spoil, but that happened. I was driving somewhere and something happened. And so that kind of like inspired the idea. And then I just kind of like took that idea and ran with it. And I actually, I've been saying this in other events, but the story actually started off with Jordan being the main character from his perspective, but then I kind of like switched it around because I wanted it to be kind of like more grounded in ordinary like suburban life. And then I also just thought it was like a unique way to look at the superhero powers, because we get a lot of origin stories, but not really from the perspective of someone who's kind of like encountering the new superhero thing. So that's kind of like how the idea came, and then I just went with it. And as far as like the meet cute, I used to work at Dairy Queen, so that kind of like came from that. But yeah, I just thought it was like cute.
It was an exploding blizzard. Like, I mean, it was adorable.
Yeah. I thought it was kind of fitting given, you know, the temperature thing, and then it actually, that idea kind of came to me, you know, like Dairy Queen's slogan, it's like hot eats, like cool treats. It's like that whole like kind of like contrast is kind of like where I got the idea.
That's awesome. I love that. And I love little things like that. And I think that, like, you know, the fact that, you know, you worked at Dairy Queen, like those little things, I think made the book feel more real. I mean, obviously I don't know anything about your life, but it felt very real and it felt very grounded while I was reading it. And I think that was one of my favorite parts of the story was just that, you know, yeah, you're dealing with superpowers, but you know, everything else around it just feels so true to life. Like you could know all of those people. And I'm again terrible with names. Was it Kirsten or Kristen? Kirsten.
Yeah, Kirsten.
Kirsten and Perry. I adored them. I absolutely adored, and I'm pretty sure I had friends like that when I was in high school, and I think everyone should.
Yeah, it's actually great. I think like one of the main takeaways I've been seeing that people are like obsessed with the friendship and like the friend group and stuff. Like that's everyone comments on that, which I just love. And that wasn't something that I was like thought was going to be like one of the big things that everyone loved. So it just like happened naturally, which makes it even cooler. But yeah, like the whole grounded thing. I mean, that was what we talked about that all the time throughout the revision process. And like my editors, Augusta Harris and Brittany, we like every like comment that they would make, it would be like, do this, keep it grounded though, or like, we need to add more of the powers here, but like keep it grounded. So like that was the whole, like we really wanted this to be a grounded superhero story. So
yeah, well, and I think that that's really important. That was like when We Are the Ants first came out, like one of the things that people were always like, well, why did you include aliens in this book? And it's like, because, you know, real life can often be just a disaster, and you know, it can just be a lot. And so having that sort of supernatural or sci-fi element in there makes everything else feel more real in a way. And that's how I felt about your book, was, you know, that the superpowers were not incidental, but it was like, it was so easy to buy into them because the rest of the world felt so real. And I think there was a confidence in your writing too, where it was just like, you know, the characters believed it and you believed it. So as a reader, I believed it too.
Yeah, that's cool.
I, really
I think
it.
with that like science fiction component, like I read We Are the Ants too. And I think having that just like always in the background or like hanging above their heads just adds like a lot of tension like throughout the story, which I think is another cool component as they like navigate their like normal lives.
Right. So I do have so one of the things that, you know, because of course with Marvel and everything, we've been getting a lot of superheroes, but I thought one of the most interesting things was the fact that Dylan caught his superpowers. Was there any, was there any thought behind that? I mean, obviously like you thought about it, but I mean, was there anything that you were trying to convey, or was there something that you really wanted to make a point with, or was it just a really cool thing that you decided to do?
In like making Dylan get the powers?
Yeah. I mean, having them be like transmissible almost.
Yeah, so I just kind of wanted to add that because almost in like a comedic way, because I think with Dylan's personality and just kind of how he is this like self-deprecating person, and he is just kind of like in the mundane, and he like is desperate for a boyfriend. So he's like, I'm gonna like pursue this guy kind of thing. And then I just thought it was like kind of funny that that kind of happened to him, like his first relationship. This is kind of like who he's dating or who likes him. He has to like deal with that. Like, oh, I wanted a boyfriend, but like, this isn't what I asked for kind of thing. So I just thought that that was kind of like funny, and like how like he dealt with that. But yeah.
And it is. And I mean, I thought it was great. Like I don't know. I love the whole thing. So I'm curious, what was your favorite part to write? Like, did you have like a favorite part or favorite characters that you liked writing? What was your favorite part of this process?
Yeah, I think there's a couple. So one of my favorite scenes is in chapter 12, there's a scene on like a frozen lake, which kind of like really catapults the story a little bit forward. And I love that scene for a bunch of different reasons, because it has all the friends, and then it has Dylan and Jordan, and it has like all of the components of the story that I love. So there's like the sci-fi aspect, then there's some comedy, there's the friendship component, there's like mystery, and then it's like cinematic. It's outside on a frozen lake in the woods at night. So I loved writing that, and I love reading that, and I love hearing like reader reactions to that. But then I also love a lot of the pieces about identity, because Dylan he's openly gay and he's out of the closet, but I also kind of like wanted to write this as like the part of the process where you're out of the closet, but you're still kind of like coming out, if that makes sense. Yeah. So the whole subplot with the GSA, the Gay Straight Alliance at school, and with Darlene, and with Savannah and his other peers in high school, I really loved like writing about that and seeing how that kind of like influenced and changed Dylan's identity and like perspective on himself as the story progressed.
Yeah, and I like that because we don't often, like, a lot of times in stories, like, we get coming out stories, or like I have a tendency to just kind of move past that because I dealt with coming out for so long. Like, I just wanted to write about characters who were comfortable. But we don't see a lot of books where a character is out but is still sort of coming to terms with what that means. And I think that, as queer people, like, coming out is just never like a one and done process.
Yeah.
It is ongoing. But I actually, like, there was one, and I was curious about this line because I thought that this was so beautiful. It's in the beginning, and it's like the first like 50 pages. But when Dylan is talking to his mom, he says, I'm gay and I can't not be anymore. I can't not be anymore. I just thought that was such a really interesting way to put that. And I'm curious, like, where that, like, where you came up with his sort of, coming out, and what made you decide to go that route?
Yeah, so I mean, one, kind of like what I said, I wanted to write the story with an openly gay character. So that was definitely one of the ingredients. And then Dylan has all these flaws, but I wanted his coming out to be like the source of strength for his character that he would like continue to go back to. And so, he has like a lot of insecurities about his like popularity at school or his academics and his athletic abilities. He's very hard on himself with all of that. But I think at many different points throughout the story, like even in the beginning when he's deciding whether or not he should continue to pursue Jordan, he kind of always reflects back on his coming out process and realizes, like, I did that so I can do these other things. So I really wanted to have that story be in there so that he always like had that to look back on, and like know that he had that support with his friends and family. But yeah, so I think I just wanted it to be like that thing that he like kept going back to and gave him the strength to kind of like move through the rest of the story.
I love that because it's usually the opposite. Like it's usually like the coming out process is the sort of thing that a lot of characters, it happens and they try and get past it as quickly as possible. It's not usually like that, that source of strength.
And I think there's a mix too. I think he uses it as a source of strength, but he also is like ready to move past it, but he doesn't know how to, like with Savannah, who, for those who haven't read it yet, or she's kind of like a mean girl in the story and gives Dylan like a hard time. And I think when he deals with her, he constantly is like, I already like dealt with you when I came out, like, so like leave me alone. He's trying to like forget about that and just move on. And he doesn't like get it. And I think that's true to a lot of like young people. And like, he doesn't get why he can't get a boyfriend, or he doesn't get why his friend Perry like tries to set him up a lot with like different guys. That's kind of her thing, and they never work out. And so he doesn't get why that's happening. So he's like, why I like came out early, I was brave and I did this big thing, and I don't get why it's not working for me. So that's like a frustration for him, I think, too.
So was it, how much of this, if any, was inspired by your own life? Like, did you pull a lot from like your own friends and family? And I know like that question, like we always sort of like pull certain things, but was there like anything specific that from your own life that really inspired you? I actually don't think any of the characters are based off of anyone in particular from my life. I definitely think there are pieces of the story that are like the setting for sure. Like I grew up in the suburbs of Philadelphia, so I definitely pulled pieces from my life into that. The whole like Dairy Queen thing, the whole like a lot of the high school vibes. Like I had
friends that were cheerleaders growing up. So I pulled different pieces of that into Perry and Kirsten, who are also cheerleaders. So yeah, so I definitely think there's a lot of like different pieces, but nothing like too deep with any of the characters. Like Dylan's coming out is not related to my coming out. Like I have two brothers. Dylan has a supportive sister. I think there's like a lot of differences there.
Which, speaking of, I love that sibling relationship, by the way. Sibling relationships are always really difficult, because I think most sibling relationships are really complicated. You love them and you hate them.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually love that sibling relationship. So I want to talk a little bit, if you're into that, like about like what your writing process was, because you have a job, another job that you do as well, right? I believe you work for the CDC.
I used to. Now I work
Okay.
for another public health company. I'm in the research department. Yeah,
which is really fascinating, by the way. Because I love science stuff. But so, what was your writing process like when you were doing this?
Yeah. So for this one, like the idea came to me pretty quick when that event happened. And I just remember kind of like writing it all down and like having a brief outline. And then at that time I was kind of like in a bit of a lull with my writing career. I had written a book before this one and I had another agent, and we kind of like tried to pitch that to publishers and it never sold or anything. And then my agent at the time, she moved agencies, and then she kind of like transitioned a lot of her clients. And so I didn't have an agent, and I was just kind of like trying to think about like what's next. And so I was in a bit of a lull, but I had this idea that I was excited about, and I was like writing very, very slowly with just like my outline. So I probably wrote like 25% of it over the course of a year, just like very slowly. But then when I got to that one point, there was really like a switch that went off where I was like, I actually like, I really love this one. This one is going to be like good, I think. And it might be like the next piece that will like get me an agent and like I can try again kind of thing. So I got really excited. And then I think I finished like the rest of it in like maybe a month or like 2 months kind of thing. And so first it was like very slow, and then I kind of like did a sprint at the end because I was so excited about it.
That's really cool. So you mentioned an outline. Are you an outliner, like, or do you just kind of like, are you like a brief outliner, or do you outline like every scene? Or
no, I'm a brief outliner. I kind of like, I get like frustrated with outlines sometimes because I feel like I'm just wasting time and I should be actually writing the story, which isn't like a good way to think about it. But so I write like brief outlines of just like the beginning, the middle, and the end, and then some scenes with like the different characters, and then I just connect all the pieces.
Yeah, don't feel bad about not being an outliner, because like I am like a chaos writer where like, I mean, I've done proposals for my editors and it's like, here's the outline, and then the book I turn in like 6 months later looks nothing like the outline, and they're just like, what is this?
Oh yeah, it definitely changes. Like I can't even believe how much the temperature of me and you has changed since like the first draft to this published one.
Well, okay, so since this is your first book, because I know a lot of people are usually really interested in this, how was the editing process like working with editors for you?
It was great. I think one funny thing about my editor is that my editor Augusta, she is from like the same area that I am from, that I grew up in, and so we kind of connected about the manuscript with that in the beginning. So yeah, so that was cool. That was funny. Like she knew a lot of like the hometown references and things, and so that was great. That was a really fun thing with the editing process. But yeah, it was everything was new to me, so I think that was like what made it stressful. I don't think it was like the editing process. I just kind of like didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how long things would take, or I didn't know like how many rounds of each thing we would do. So I think since everything was new, I would say that was maybe like why it was stressful or sometimes maybe anxious. But I think the editing process itself was definitely pretty positive. When they sent me their initial offer for it, they had like a list of the changes that they wanted, and most were like manageable, nothing too big. But there was one big one that I was nervous about, and it was moving something from like the last quarter of the book to the first quarter of the book. And so I remember talking with my agent, and I was like, how do you think we can do that? Because I think I wanted to do it. I just didn't know how, because you're like so tied to the story. But so I was nervous about that. But then that was the first developmental edit that we did. And then once that was out of the way, I think it was pretty smooth sailing after that. That was just like the only big thing that we did. And then we did 3 rounds of developmental edits, a couple rounds of line edits, and then all the copy edits and stuff like that.
So so in the process of editing, did they draw anything out that surprised you? Because I'm always surprised by like what my editor brings out of my manuscripts. And so was there anything in there that they suggested or said that really surprised you and made you think and change the story in any way?
I mean, I think what made the process so great was all of their suggestions I felt made the story better. So I think that is what made it exciting and fun and easy to do. Even the big change that I was talking about, I kind of knew it was going to make the story better.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't want to do it because it was going to change every single chapter after that, and it was going to be like change like so much. So I had to like figure it out. And so, but once I did that, I mean, they elevated, I think, all of the characters.
Mm-hmm.
And it really makes you, I think it just made me think about everything like just on like another level. Like the characters were here and all their edits, we brought them up here, and they just had like so much more depth. And I think it was just like really, really exciting. They just added so many more layers. So we never really got into any disagreements about, oh, I don't really know if that's a good idea. It was all just like, oh yeah, let's do that. That's great.
That's really awesome. And I think it shows in the book. Like, I think, because it is such a fun, easy, read, and there's such great characters to spend time with. And, I think you can tell, when, a writer and an editor really get along. And actually, like, I love the editing process, but I'm like you, like the first few times it's like, oh, we want to change this, this one thing. And you're like, oh, now I have to change everything in every chapter.
Yeah.
And it's just, I actually got to the point with doing that where pretty much up until we do line edits, I just rewrite the entire book. Because I type really fast. So like that makes it easy, but it's just easier instead of having to like go into chapters and try and move things around, is I just like get all my notes out and I have all the changes that I want to make. And I just retype the whole thing because it's easier. And in a weird way, it's less chaotic than trying to do it the other way.
Yeah, no, I get that. I remember sometimes when I would like cut something, paste it up here, I would like lose track of like where I was moving everything. So that does make sense. Yeah.
And you wind up with characters going to like, homeroom 3 times in one chapter.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, I was going to think about this is, and Matt Rigsby, this is a question from Matt, is, are you thinking about a sequel? Like, is there more story for Jordan and Dylan?
So I definitely think there is. I have a sequel idea kind of outlined already and everything. And there's a lot more to explore, I think, with their powers. And kind of how that all came to be. So that would be fun to explore more. I think there's also a lot to learn more about Jordan. I think, he's very mysterious in this book. And there are other things that happen in the story where we kind of like, how can I say without spoiling? We don't get to see like too much of his personality. And so that would be fun to explore more of that. And then they also, I think, this is kind of a story about them learning about each other and then getting to know each other and like the very early stages of their relationship. I mean, I don't even know if you could like call it like a relationship in this story. They're just like getting to know each other and like kind of like falling in love and learning about each other and all these different things. So I think now there would be so much more to explore in the next phase of their relationship where they actually know each other. They kind of like know what each other likes and what activities they like to do. And that would be a cool thing to see because like Dylan's so anxious in the story, it
Mhm.
would be cool to see Dylan a bit more level-headed in his relationship and see how he interacts with Jordan when he's a bit more calm and secure.
That would be cool. Any chance for a Kirsten Perry spinoff?
I mean, that would be cool too. I haven't thought about that one, but I mean, why not?
So, and actually, I like these questions. So let's talk about what made you decide to be a writer? Like, when did you decide you wanted to be a writer?
Yeah, great question. So I started writing in college. As we kind of talked about earlier, I had my science background. And so I was a bio major and, was kind of like focused on like maybe a medical career or something. And so I was doing like a lot of chemistry and physics and all these kind of like technical sciences and things like that. And so I really needed a creative outlet. So then I just kind of like started writing. And I think it's because I was really obsessed with like YA fiction at the time, just like reading a lot. And that kind of like got me back into reading the whole like YA boom at that time with like the Hunger Games and stuff. So I was just like ferociously reading all those books. And then that's when I was like, okay, like let me write some of these for fun, just as a way to relax. And then I just like kind of did writing because it was like, I was always on my computer doing like homework and stuff. So then I could just like switch to writing really quick. Back and forth. So it was a good like time saver. And then I just like wrote for fun in college, never really thought about becoming a published author or anything. And then I wrote that dystopian novel that I mentioned earlier. And then it just like kind of kept rolling. And then when I finished it, I was like, I've enjoyed this writing process so much. I think this is like something I want to pursue with publication. And then I just kind of like taught myself about it, learned it, and then tried to pursue publication for that one. And then
That's really cool.
Kept going, yeah.
Wow. So like with The Temperature of Me and You, you said that first manuscript was a dystopian, and I mean, I don't know, would you consider The Temperature of Me and You more sci-fi or more like superhero? Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no. I kind of consider it as like a contemporary with sci-fi elements.
Cool.
That's kind of like how I picture it because it is, very grounded and it's not like hardcore science fiction. I feel like if I pitched it as like science fiction people would come in and be like, this isn't science fiction. But it has those science fiction elements and a bit of like, fantastical things and stuff. But I think like at its core, it's like that grounded coming of age story.
So okay, well, is that the genre that you're most comfortable in, or are there other genres you're interested in exploring?
So I think I've learned that this is my favorite genre because I wrote that dystopian before. Mm-hmm. And then in college, I worked on a story that was kind of dystopian, but it was like dark, kind of like, it actually was inspired by one of my genetics classes, and it was about like these like genetically manipulated people and teenagers and stuff. But the only one that ever kind of like panned out was The Temperature of Me and You, and this was the easiest book that I kind of like developed, and then it was just so much fun. And then I just finished another manuscript that is very similar. It's like a contemporary story with science fiction magical elements, and I've kind of learned that this is my thing, I think. And so that's something that I figured out recently, I guess.
Nice. I mean, it's a good place to be, like, because I always like call my stuff like contemporary weird because I never kind of know like what's gonna pop in or like where the brain is gonna go, and I always like thinking about like I know that I've seen The Temperature of Me and You compared favorably to Stranger Things, and I definitely agree. I think Stranger Things is a little darker, and I think that Temperature of Me and You has a lighter, and I like that about it.
Have you ever read Autobiography?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I pitched this to my agent when I was doing my querying as Stranger Things meets Autobiography. So that's kind of like how I kind of saw the two.
Yeah, I think it also reminded me of, and I'm gonna forget the title, but it was by Lauren Shippen, I think is the author's name, based on a podcast. And I don't know why I bring things up and I can't remember the name. something impossible. Anyway, but yeah, no, I love that it's almost like a blending of genres, like, because you're getting that good contemporary. And so, yeah, it's a fun place to be because you can kind of go anywhere. You did mention you finished another manuscript. Is it something you are willing to talk about a little, or is it secret? And it's fine if it's secret. I know how those things go.
Yeah, I think it's secret.
Okay.
But it's similar. I mean, I can talk about like general themes. It is similar. It's based in like the real world, so it's like a contemporary story, and there's like definitely this like science fiction element going on in the main character's town, and he's just kind of like figuring out a mystery revolved around this. So he's actually like a pool inspector for his county health department, and then there's like a mystery going on in one of the pools that he's looking into, so he has to figure out that. And then rather than it being a story where the main character falls in love, he's actually falling out of love. So we kind of like follow him through that journey. But yeah,
Nice.
So I'm excited about it. Yeah.
It's a fun journey to try and do. Because I did that with At the Edge of the Universe, where that was sort of, I mean, I guess it's not a spoiler since it came out like 6 years ago or something like that. But where it's like the whole thing is, the sci-fi element is developed because he's getting over a breakup, and it's really interesting things to do. So I'm actually really curious because I am like, my background is actually like medieval history, computers, and emergency medicine for whatever reason, because I thought I was going to be a firefighter for a while. But your background is in science, and I am like fascinated by science and reading about it. What drew you to science? And I mean, I guess you kind of already answered like what draws you to putting it in your stories. But I don't know, what do you love about science? Like, what is it that draws you to that?
I just think it's really interesting. I mean, honestly, when I was in college, I was kind of like undecided in my first year, just like literally all over the place. I was like thinking about like doing business, and then I was like a history major at one point, and then I was just like, what do I love? And then I just like liked science. I took like AP Bio and stuff in high school, and so it was just something that I thought I could do. And then I was thinking about like a clinical career or something along those lines, so that kind of fit. And then as I was going through my education, I figured out that wasn't really what I wanted to do, but I took a lot of like environmental science courses, ecology and things. And then I work in public health now, so I got like my master's in public health after that. And so I kind of like science at like the population level and like epidemiology and diseases and things like that. So I just think, it just kind of like is interesting to me. And then how it influences my writing, I think all of my writing has kind of been influenced by my school and work, just with different jobs that I've had and the courses. There's like some chemistry in this one. So yeah, they kind of just like merge.
Okay, so if you couldn't do what you're doing now or be a writer, what would you have done?
Oh. I don't know.
It's tough.
I'm just so, I literally have only thought about writing and public health for like a decade now. So I really don't know.
That's okay. Okay, so I'm going to check some of make sure. Okay, so this was actually good, is with your full-time job, what is your schedule like writing now? Like, where do you find the time?
Yeah, so I usually write either at night or on the weekends, obviously, and then I write in like binges. That's how I've figured out that I am the most successful at writing. Like, I'm not a person who can get up early and write an hour before work or write for an hour at night. I kind of have to dedicate blocks of writing time.
Oh, wow.
So I either have to write like for an entire Sunday or an entire Saturday or like an entire night kind of thing. So that's kind of like what I do and how I write best. I actually went to Utah for a month back last spring and kind of like I went by myself, kind of treated it as like a little writing retreat. I was working still, but I had the time to myself and just really like worked on my manuscript every single weekend, pretty much, in like these
Nice.
huge long stretches of writing. Yeah, and that's where I finished the first draft of the book I was just talking about. So
That's cool. So are you a listen to music person or silence person? And if so, what kind of music?
I listen to instrumental music. Yeah, so
Like classical or like movie or video game music, like
movie,
scores?
yeah, movie, TV shows, stuff like that.
Do you have a favorite?
Yes, so there's the Stranger Things one is good,
Mhm.
and then I was just talking about this. What are the other ones? Oh, the Sicario soundtrack with Emily Blunt. That's a really good one. The Arrival soundtrack with Amy Adams. That's a movie. That one is the best one. Interstellar has a really good one. And these are all the ones that I use during temperature. So that are all like kind of like science fiction, a little bit intense.
Gotcha.
So,
I always go to the band Explosions in the Sky when I'm like, I can't figure out what I need to listen to, so I just put them on because it's all.
Is that the Friday Night Lights band?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good one.
They're just like my go-to when I'm just like, I need something and it can't have words.
Yeah. It can't have words for me either.
Well, so it's weird. Okay, so like usually when I'm first draft, I use brown or white noise to block out like all sounds so that I can hear like my internal voice. And then when I'm doing like, like early revisions, that's when I start listening to music. But when I'm doing like later edits, that's when I listen to like, I start finding like the book's soundtrack and I can listen to music with words and things like that. But even still, sometimes like you notice like words and things like that popping up from songs.
Yeah, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I think I might be the opposite, because as I'm like in the later stages of editing, when I'm like doing line edits and copy edits and things, I actually think I read in silence. I don't think I listen to music.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I actually think I need to because I think I need to focus. Yeah, I'm just thinking about now, like I never even really thought about it, like what I do, but I listen to music a lot during just like the general writing and big edits. But yeah, when I was doing copy edits and things, I was like kind of like in the zone. I also like to print it out when I'm that far along, just because I feel like I read it differently than when it's on the computer.
Yeah, I actually ended up because it like you're printing out all those manuscripts, even if you're doing double-sided, like I wound up with like an apartment full of manuscripts. So I ended up getting one of the 12-inch iPads because they have Word and they have the pen and you can like draw on the pen, and it saved so much paper.
Maybe I'll do that. It's a good tip.
And like it works a little, like, I mean, it's still a screen, and so you're still kind of staring at a screen, but like you can like walk around with it, because I don't know, like especially like when I'm done with a draft, before I turn it in, I read the whole thing out loud. And so, just pacing around the house reading out loud. So yeah, it works really well for that. Anyway, sorry, it's just like a weird. So I want to make sure, because we're at 6:45, so I want to make sure I get to as many of these questions as I can. So what was your first reaction? And this is from Efren, who wants to know what your first reaction was when you found out you were going to be published.
Oh, that's a good one. So this is kind of a funny story. So, so my agent, let me see, I signed with my agent in the month of November, and then we did November 2018, I believe. And then we did edits for about 2 months, and then we kind of like pitched it in the spring. And then the manuscript was kind of like floating about, and then actually, I don't know if I can say this. I guess I can. I never know what to say. But so there was like, actually, I don't know if I can say this actually.
Okay, that's okay.
But anyway, so how I got published, it was just like a surreal thing. So I was just at work, like at my desk, and I just like saw my agent like flash. And I kind of like, she hadn't called me in a while. And so I knew something was like maybe up. And then I was kind of like thinking, because we had like some emails before that, like maybe we were getting some energy around it and stuff. And so just got got her call. So I work in like an open office environment. And so I like picked up my phone and I like ran to like a private meeting room just because like I couldn't really talk because there's so many people around. And then I like answered the phone and then she was like, "Are you all right? You sound like you're out of breath." And then I was like, "Yeah, because I am, because I just sprinted across the office." But then, yeah, then she just told me and then it was great.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Because I remember it's so funny because I like when I got that call for my first book, I was also at work and I had to like run out to the parking lot to take the call. And the thing that sucks most about that, right, is you get like the best news of your life and then you have to go back to work and like pretend everything is like normal.
Yeah. I think I had so much adrenaline. I worked in downtown Philly and I literally think I just went out of my office building and just like walked around the city just for a very long time because I was just so much energy.
That's awesome. I love that. That call is, I mean, it's one of those things because, you know, you work for something for so long and especially like, I don't know how long the time was for you between, like how long you were on submission, but I think I was out for like 9 months. And so like at that, you're just like, you begin to doubt yourself and you begin to feel like, oh, this is never going to happen.
Oh yeah. I mean, and especially because I went through the whole process already with that other book that never sold. And then, you know, my expectations were like under the basement, like so low. And yeah, so we pitched, I think we started in March and then I got the call in September. And so again, it was like a bit of a while because you want it like, just naturally, I feel like I wanted it after the first like 3 months or something. I was like, oh, this one's not going anywhere either. Like all that work, but yeah, it was great.
It's really hard because, you know, like it's something that everyone says. It's like it only takes like one editor to say yes. It like, you know, it just takes the right person finding your manuscript to make it all happen, and it's so true. Like it's the truest thing, and you know, I'm really glad that your editor found this. And where was it?
Yeah, there was a lot of weird coincidences with it too, because Augusta, my editor, she's like from my hometown, and then this is also something else that's weird, but it's like my family's name is like my dad and my brother and my grandparents, they're all named like August, and then, you know, Augusta was my editor, and there were just like all these weird signs that like, oh, this has to be the one kind of thing. So it was cool.
Oh, that's really cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have another question from Dylan. Is who in The Temperature of Me and You are you most like, if you're like any of them?
So right now, I think I would say I'm most like Kirsten. You know, she's a bit of type A a little bit, but she has like everything kind of like mapped out. And I think I just like have to be that way right now, given like everything I have going on with like writing and my job, and like everything is just like very organized and planned out. So I think if I had to pick someone, it would probably be her out of all the characters, but I don't really think I'm like any of them too much. But yeah.
Okay. So what are some of your some books or authors that have influenced your writing?
Yeah, so for this question, I always just go back to the authors that really got me back into reading again, because I don't think if I started like reading in those like big binges when I was younger, I wouldn't have started writing. So like John Green, like I like plowed through all of those. You know, Looking for Alaska was one of my favorite novels. Gillian Flynn, like Gone Girl, those mysteries, dark places. I don't know if I could ever like write something like that, but
I was gonna say, I find that really surprising because,
well, I just think it's like I gravitate towards books that are just like so, I don't know, those were just like such page turners. I feel like anything that like is just super exciting, no matter the genre, is just like something that I love. I think because it influences me because I just want to like remake that feeling maybe with the writing. It's not like necessarily influencing like my writing style or like the genre that I'm writing. I think it's just like that feeling I want to create where it's like, oh, that was just so good. Like I was so entertained. And so I just kind of like that.
Okay. Yeah, because when I read Gone Girl, I remember I closed the book and I walked into the apartment. I was living with my ex at the time, and I was like, that book was amazing. I never want to spend another second with any of those characters again. And I was just like, The Temperature of Me and You, like everyone, like I love those characters. But no, that's really interesting. I like the idea, and I think you have created that feeling really well, because this was like I walked away energized, from reading your book, and that is a really unique thing, and that is a really good quality to have.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Make sure, what do we got? 8 minutes, so I want to make sure. Let's see. So Jordan wants to know, they said that they really enjoyed The Temperature of Me and You, and would love some more science fiction books. Maybe is there a spaceship romance in your future?
Ooh. Also, I just want to note that it's very cool that there's an actual Dylan and Jordan on the call, because those are the main characters in the book. But I don't know. I mean, that would be cool. I think it would have to be like grounded like that. I think if I was like sticking with my lane, it would be cool to do like a spaceship romance. Yeah, I'm not going to say no.
So how much input did you get? And this is from Ephraim. How much input did you get, if any, on your book's cover?
So I definitely got like a chance to review it, and a little bit of input, which was great and like really appreciated. So how the process worked was essentially my editors just kind of like sent me a couple black and white sketches that the art department was working on. And so I got to see them, and then I like they let me like pick a favorite, or like if any of them resonated with me. And then so I got to like pick one of my favorites, and this was luckily like my favorite, so it all worked out. And yeah, and then they sent me like a proof after that of the one that we picked, and then I was able to give like feedback, just like minor stuff. And then yeah, and then it was the final, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I actually can't wait to see how this looks in hardcover, because like the color scheme, the way the color scheme is like a flame is just, it's really kind of brilliant. I love the way that it goes from, yellow to red to blue. It's really cool. Like those little details are the things that make covers for me.
The hardcover cover is beautiful. It has like a unique texture to it, which is nice. And then the cover, The Temperature of Me and You cover, kind of like is raised. I just have it right here. This is like raised, so that's super nice. And then it has like the night sky on the background, which is really
that's
pretty.
really nice.
Yeah, and then it has like the flame, like a candle kind of thing going up here. So yeah, it's super nice, and I just feel like the character sketches are a lot more like vivid on the hardcover.
That's really cool. Okay, so I have one question that I like to ask is, especially with what you have done, is if you could write a young adult novel of any superhero, DC, Marvel, anything, what would you pick?
That's a really good question. Let me think.
Just in case anyone from DC, Marvel, or wherever is listening.
I know. Let me run through them real quick. I'm trying to think who hasn't been done yet.
Yeah, we've been getting a lot of really great representation lately. And while you think, I'll tell you, I've been watching, oh gosh, why can I not think of it? It's on HBO, and it is, all right, well now, the Doom Squad. And it's a DV property, or a DC property. And it is brilliant. I mean, they have like such really great representation in that.
Yeah.
And I think we're getting some really good stories now. So I would love to see, Marvel and DC and the rest jump into that game with some good YA novels. Yeah.
So I think I'm just trying to think of something that would be like unique. I think it would be cool to like write about like an unknown like X-Men character or something, or take someone who like doesn't have like that big of a spotlight and like put them in their own story. Like I think that would be really cool. I would just have to find like a unique character within the X-Men universe. So I think and I feel like that's like similar to The Temperature of Me and You.
Yeah, I mean, and that it's really cool because you did kind of get to write your own, and I like that idea. Let's see. I think we talked about, we asked what was the hardest part. Did I ask you what the hardest part was to write? Or did I say, was there a part you like?
We talked about like the hardest edit, which was like moving something from the end to the beginning.
Okay. So let's ask, was there a part of this book that was the hardest for you to write? Was there a scene or a character that was really difficult? Because I'll tell you, like reading Savannah was really hard for me because going through, some bullying when I was younger, like those parts were difficult to read.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, I think Savannah, because she has a lot going on, and we definitely worked on her a lot to make sure that everything landed with her. She definitely behaves like over the top, and I think that that's on purpose. A lot of the stuff in the story is almost kind of like over the top and like a little bit like funny and comical and sensationalized and stuff. But yeah, so I would say Savannah's character arc was something that I thought about a lot. I think because it was important for Dylan's journey, and then what she was going through was also like sensitive. So it was just something that we like talked about and worked on a lot.
Well, I think that you say it's over the top, but actually like it felt very real to me, and like that was something like I noticed like when I was writing, because I wrote my young adult memoir, and like I went through like all my old journals and all my old emails, and like when I thought of my life, I was talking to my editor, I was like, I'm a boring person, like no one's going to want to read like my boring life. But as I was like reading it, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I was such a drama queen. Like this was all like over the top. And so I feel like it felt very real to me. And Savannah felt very real, and that journey. So yeah, so I think like you say it's over the top, but I think that, I think that maybe that's how being a teenager feels sometimes.
Yeah, that's true.
Because it's a lot. This is a really interesting question. So an anonymous attendee asked, they said, the book is called The Temperature of Me and You, Not You and Me. Am I overthinking it, or is there a significance to that word order?
So there's not really a significance. It's more just like a stylistic choice. And there's actually, this is very random, but so as I was kind of like, so this is not the original title. There was a different title, and then I changed it to this. And then, so there's a 1975 band. There's the band called the 1975, and they have a song called Me and You. And I just like was kind of like in my head at the time, and then I just kind of like chose it stylistically. So yeah, there's nothing to like overthink. It's not like anything deep.
I love that. Would you mind telling us what your first title was?
Yeah, so it was called A Different Kind of Breath, which wasn't great.
Oh, but I like that, I don't know. Okay, titles are really weird.
Yeah.
Because like the titles that I love, like my editors usually hate. It's their title. Like I actually kind of like that title, but I also like The Temperature of Me and You, and so I think.
Yeah. And then if you have read the book, you'll notice that Jordan's favorite band is the 1975, and he has a poster of that in his room. So it's a little Easter egg, I guess you could say.
That's really cool. And so I make sure, I think I got all the questions. There's one that says that I don't think, what your favorite LGBTQ book is that you've read.
Ooh.
I know there's so many now. It used to be easy to do that.
Yeah, because you could like pick the one. But yeah, there are so many. Let's see. Autobiography, it really is like one of my favorites. I just love that one so much. I don't know why. It just it always just like comes to mind when people ask that. I just like ate that one up. Aristotle and Dante. Yes. I love that one.
That one is so sweet. And you know what the worst is? I listened to the audiobook and I didn't actually realize who was narrating the audiobook as I was listening to it the first time. And I thought that was really cool that I think he narrated the sequel too, maybe.
Oh,
I don't know yet.
That's cool.
Anyway.
I haven't read the sequel yet.
No, neither have I. I'm afraid because like it's such a perfect book.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard all good things though, so I'm excited. And then I think More Happy Than Not by Adam Silvera.
Yes.
That was definitely a moment
We could spend an entire panel going, so what is your favorite Adam Silvera book, and why is it they both die at the end?
Yeah. Yeah, but no, more happy than not. Yeah, that one like really hit me hard. That was a good one. And then this one actually, so Perks of Being a Wallflower, I didn't, when I was reading it at the time, actually, like way back when I was younger, I actually didn't know it was like gonna have like some queer themes and stuff, but I remember as I was reading it, that really hit me hard too, because it wasn't, I wasn't expecting it, I guess you could say. And just because of like what I was going through in my own life, it really like resonated with me, and I had like kind of a emotional response to that one as well. So that was a good one too.
That's really cool. And I'm just gonna answer. I don't know why somebody asked me if my table is on a book, and I don't know if they mean the table in the background, but no, there are books on my table. So I don't know if maybe I'm answering their question wrong, but anyway, I don't know. So yeah, so what is up next for you? So tell us what's up next for you, because I want to make sure, I think we're running out of time, so I just want to make sure I get that in before.
Up next is just trying to, I guess, sell the next story. So there's really not much planned, but hopefully lots of more books, hopefully fun things with The Temperature of Me and You. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Yeah, I finished that other book in the beginning of January, and then I've kind of like taken some time off from writing and just focused on the launch of this one. And I have another idea that I have all outlined on ready to go. So might start that one maybe in the spring, might take some time off in February, but yeah, so.
How has this been for you, by the way? Because like debuting is the most amazing thing, and sometimes it gets lost in doing all of this stuff. So I hope that you are enjoying it. Like, I hope you're enjoying your debut time, because it's really cool.
Yeah, I've had a great time. I've enjoyed it so much. It's just been amazing seeing the book in the stores, having these events. I think like these events were like unexpected. I didn't think I was going to get to have like all these like great conversations, and so that's been fun. And then all the stuff on social media, I think seeing people on social media like post with my book, I think that has been really cool and rewarding, and like not something that I expected to like feel so much. So seeing people with it, like just in their living rooms and like with their dog, it's just like so cute and fun, and just like knowing that the book is actually out there is really wild.
Oh my God, wait till the fan art starts.
Oh, I can't wait. I hope soon.
Oh my God. Like the first time I saw fan art, I was like, oh my God, this is the most amazing thing ever.
Yeah, I really want that.
Well, I think Allie is popping back up.
Sure I am. So we are at our time, I think, unfortunately. So it's about time to call it a night, but I'm just going to take this last couple of minutes to say a huge thank you to everyone who joined us this evening. This has been an absolute treat. I'm going to go ahead and re-link the books, The Temperature of Me and You, and also before we disappear, just in case you missed them the first time, go ahead and follow those links if you would like to grab copies.
And you should. It is amazing.
Yeah, it's so pretty, it's so good, so definitely go grab copies. I'm sorry if you can hear my dog barking. He thinks it's dinner he thinks it's dinner time. So let us know, audience, of course. Let us know what you thought of this event, either in person or online. We love to hear from you. Thank you so much for blowing up the chat and the questions. You guys had great questions tonight. Authors, thank you so much for joining us. This has been so much fun. Are there any last things that you want to share before we say goodnight?
I just want to thank you, and thank you, Brian, and good luck with Temperature Me and You, and thank you for writing it. I think the more representation we get, the better. And to the audience, like, please support your local bookstore. Please support Third Place.
Yeah, I echo that all. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you everyone for coming to the event and like making my debut week so special. I just appreciate all the support. It's been great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you both one more time. And I think with that, it's time to do our awkward wave thing. So good night, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, everybody.